I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into my parents' house, and everyone yelled, "Surprise!" But the problem was it wasn't for me. It was my birthday. Balloons spelled out, "Happy birthday, Elena," across the living room wall, and my younger sister, draped in a glittering gold dress, stood in the center, basking in applause. My parents were clapping, my relatives were cheering, and my husband, James, was standing beside her with a smile that made my stomach twist. I froze at the doorway, still holding the cake I'd baked for my own birthday dinner. "Oh, Ava," my mother exclaimed, finally noticing me. "You made it just in time for Elena's surprise party. Isn't this fun? Fun?" My chest tightened as everyone's attention shifted away, laughter spilling across the room like champagne. I had turned 35 that day. Elena was 29. Somehow, my parents had decided that her promotion celebration was more important than my birthday, so they merged the two. Or rather, they erased mine. But it wasn't the first time. Growing up, Elena had been the golden child, the one who got the best schools, the most praise, the easiest forgiveness. I was the responsible one, the one who worked hard, who didn't make trouble. The invisible achiever. James had always said I was imagining the favoritism. "You're too sensitive," he'd tell me. "Your parents love you both equally." But as I watched him now, handing Elena a glass of champagne, laughing like he belonged at her party, I couldn't shake the unease curling in my gut. The night dragged on, every toast a sting. My mother stood up to speak. "Elena, sweetheart, you've worked so hard and we're so proud of you. You're everything a daughter should be, and just like that, applause again." Not a single word about me. Not even a birthday candle. James leaned toward me, whispering, "You should smile. Don't make a scene." Something inside me cracked. Not loud enough for anyone to hear, but enough for me to feel it. By the end of the night, I stood outside, alone on the porch, staring at the sea in the distance. My birthday cake still sat in the box in my hands, untouched, unwanted. When I turned back, I saw through the window James was laughing again with my sister. Too close, too familiar, and that's when the unease grew into something darker. Something was happening, something I wasn't meant to see yet. I didn't know it then, but that night would be the start of my unraveling. And my rise. Because when the people closest to you betray you on your birthday, you learn exactly how much you can lose before you decide to take everything back. The morning after the party, I woke up to the smell of leftover champagne and betrayal. James was already up, making coffee, whistling. Like nothing had happened. "Rough night?" he asked, sliding me a cup. "Yeah," I muttered. "You mean my sister's birthday party?" He chuckled. "Come on, Ava, it wasn't that bad. Your parents just wanted to celebrate her promotion." Don't take it personally. That phrase, "don't take it personally," had become his favorite weapon lately. He used it to dismiss everything. My exhaustion, my feelings, my questions. But over the next few days, tiny cracks started to show. One afternoon, I found James in the kitchen, talking softly on the phone. When he noticed me, he ended the call too fast. "Just work stuff," he said, pocketing his phone. But the way his voice dropped when he said her name later, "Elena called," sent a chill down my spine. Elena never called me. She always texted our parents, rarely even acknowledging my existence. Yet somehow she had time to chat with my husband? A week later, Mom invited us for dinner again. "It's been too long since we were all together," she said. I didn't want to go, but James insisted. "They're your family, Ava. Don't be cold." When we arrived, the table was overflowing with food. Elena's favorites, of course. Creamy pasta, garlic bread, and a triple-layer red velvet cake. My mother barely greeted me before turning to Elena. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." "Oh, that dress. James, don't you think it suits her perfectly?" James smiled. "Yeah, it really does." It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, gripping the sink until my knuckles turned white. I stared at my reflection and thought, "You're not crazy. You saw what you saw." Back at the table, Dad was talking about some financial issue he'd helped Elena with. A small loan, he said. When I asked if everything was okay, Mom's tone snapped sharp. Don't worry about it. Elena's been under a lot of stress. You wouldn't understand. That sentence hit harder than she realized. On the drive home, James was quiet. When I asked what was wrong, he simply said, "Maybe you should try being nicer to your family. You always assume the worst." I looked out the window, hiding my tears in the dark. Something was building beneath the surface, something ugly. And though I didn't have proof yet, I could feel it in my bones. They weren't just crossing boundaries anymore. They were closing ranks. Against me. It started with a photo. A friend from high school, Lauren, sent it to me late one night with no context. Just the message, "You okay?" In the image, taken at a fancy wine bar downtown, my husband James sat beside my sister Elena. His hand was resting on hers, their faces too close, too familiar. Behind them? My parents smiling proudly at the camera, like it was some perfect family moment. My chest tightened. That bar was where James and I used to go on anniversaries. He told me he was working late that night. I stared at the photo until the room started spinning. I called him immediately. No answer, then again. Straight to voicemail. When I drove to my parents' house the next morning, my mother answered the door in her robe, looking startled. "Ava, honey, what are you doing here?" I didn't bother with small talk. "Where's James?" Her eyes flickered toward the living room. I followed her gaze, and there he was, my husband, sitting on the couch next to Elena, coffee mug in hand like he belonged there. Elena needed someone to talk to, Mom stammered. You know how fragile she gets when she's under pressure. Pressure, I hissed. You mean pressure from stealing my life? Elena rolled her eyes, tossing her perfect hair over her shoulder. Ava, stop being dramatic. We didn't plan this, it just happened. Those words shattered whatever was left of my restraint. It just happened? My own husband, my family? You threw her a party on my birthday while this was going on? Dad stood up then, calm and cold. Enough. We're not discussing this here, James finally spoke, voice low and rehearsed. Ava, I think we both know our marriage hasn't been working for a while. Elena and I didn't mean for this to hurt you. It's just different with her. James finally spoke, voice low and rehearsed. Ava, I think we both know our marriage hasn't been working for a while. Elena and I didn't mean for this to hurt you. It's just different with her. Different. The word echoed in my head like a gunshot. I laughed, bitter, broken laughter. Different? You mean easier. She's always been the easy one. No responsibilities, no expectations. And you all enable her because she's your golden child. Mom looked away. Dad sighed. Elena smirked. That's when I realized they didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. I walked out without another word. But as I got into my car, my hands trembling on the steering wheel, something in me snapped into clarity. If they could erase me so easily, maybe it was time I stopped playing the role they assigned me. The dutiful daughter, the quiet wife. They wanted me gone? Fine. But they'd soon learn what happens when the forgotten one stops forgiving. Because this time, I wasn't going to cry. I was going to make them regret ever crossing me. For 3 days, I didn't leave my apartment. The blinds stayed closed. My phone stayed silent. And the world went on without me, just the way my family probably preferred it. I replayed that scene at my parents' house 100 times. The way Mom's face tightened with fake sympathy. The way Elena's voice dripped with arrogance. And James, his tone so calm, so detached, like he was relieved to finally step into his new role as my sister's savior. Every part of me wanted to scream, to beg for answers, to demand justice. But what would it change? They'd already written me off as the emotional one. On the third night, I found myself sitting on the floor with a box of old photos, family vacations, birthdays, graduations. Every smile looked like a lie now. But one photo stopped me cold. It was from my 12th birthday. Elena stood in front of my cake, blowing out my candles while everyone clapped. I was in the corner, barely in the frame. My mother's arm was around Elena, and the caption my father wrote on the back said, "Elena's big moment." That was the moment. The trigger. The memory that burned away the last of my tears. They'd been doing this my whole life, making me smaller, quieter, invisible, until even I believed I didn't deserve better. But that night, I saw it clearly for the first time. Their control only worked because I let it. I wasn't weak. I'd built a career, a life, a future on my own. The seaside condo? I bought it with my money. The business James helped manage? It thrived because I ran it. And yet, they all acted like I should be grateful for crumbs. Not anymore. The next morning, I got up before sunrise, showered, dressed, and opened my laptop. I started pulling up financial records, joint accounts, shared assets, property deeds. If James thought I wouldn't notice the transfers he made from my company's funds into his personal account, he underestimated me. If Elena thought I'd sit back and let her play the perfect wife while living off my work, she was about to learn who she was really dealing with. I didn't want revenge out of anger anymore. I wanted justice. Quiet, calculated, devastating justice. Because now I understood something powerful. They hadn't destroyed me. They'd freed me. The version of Ava they betrayed, the forgiving one, the people pleaser, was gone. And the woman who took her place? She was done playing nice. Anger had sharpened into a cold, practical focus. I wasn't going to collapse theatrically. I was going to build a case and make sure every smug smile they wore would look ridiculous when the truth landed. Step 1. Gather the paper trail. I pulled every bank statement I could access. Personal, joint, and business. I printed emails, archived text threads, and screenshots of the photo that started it all. Where there were gaps, I logged dates and people I remembered being present. The transfers from our company account to James's personal one were small at first, then bolder. Patterns don't lie once you reproduce them on paper. Step 2. Hire quiet experts. A friend connected me with a forensic accountant and an employment attorney who specialized in marital and financial disputes. They looked over the spreadsheets and raised their eyebrows in the way that makes you feel both vindicated and alarmed. The accountant flagged a sequence of withdrawals timed right after Mom's calls. The attorney explained how we could pause transfers, demand records, and, if needed, file for temporary relief to protect company assets. Step 3. Collect corroboration. People remember more than you think. I messaged neighbors who'd seen movers at odd hours. A former employee remembered James bragging about having a backup for his lifestyle. A close friend of Mom's admitted she'd heard a late-night conversation where Mom coached Elena on what to say if I confronted them. Small admissions, when strung together, make a rope. Step 4. Preserve digital proof. I saved metadata, timestamps, and email headers. If James had deleted messages, backups could restore them. If Elena had staged things, her social posts and DMs were timestamped. They became a running log of arrogance. The forensic team copied everything onto secure drives. The binder on my desk began to feel like armor. Step 5. Bait the arrogance. People who feel untouchable make mistakes. I sent a neutral, polite email to Mom. I'm reconciling accounts for taxes. Could you please forward any receipts you have from last year? Knowing she'd hurry and reply. She forwarded in haste, and in her rush she included a draft text meant for Elena. If Ava asks, say the transfers were for family support. She travels a lot. Carelessness handed me another piece of evidence. Step 6. Line up the stage. They were everywhere. Dinners, charity teas, picture-perfect smiles. That visibility was my advantage. I picked a highly visible event, Mom's annual holiday luncheon, when neighbors, family friends, and a local reporter I'd discreetly briefed would be present. It would be public, witness-filled, and impossible to gaslight. All the while, they strutted around convinced of victory. James posted photos of a new chapter. Elena thanked everyone for their love. My parents basked in compliments. Their comfort was my countdown. Late at night, I labeled folders, transfers, texts, witnesses, experts. The binder felt heavy and righteous. I didn't want revenge for spectacle. I wanted accountability that would change their lives the way they'd tried to change mine. The trap was set. The timing was chosen. Now I only needed them to keep being careless, because arrogance is a storyteller's weakness, and I had rewritten the ending. The holiday luncheon was exactly the kind of staged perfection they loved. Linen tablecloths, floral centerpieces, neighbors in their Sunday best. Mom floated through the room beaming. Elena hung on her every word, and James sat like a man who'd already won. The room was full of witnesses, the very currency my family had always traded on, social proof. I arrived carrying the binder and a calm that surprised me. Daniel slipped me a small nod. My attorney took a seat at the edge of the table like a quiet sentinel. I stood when the coffee was served and asked, softly, deliberately, for everyone's attention. "Before we toast," I said, "there's something important I need to share." Murmurs. Mom's smile tightened like a noose. I set the binder on the table and clicked the laptop. The screen behind Mom, set up for the slideshow of charity photos, lit with bank statements, highlighted transfers from our company into James's personal account, dates circled. Next, email headers proving deleted messages had been archived. Next, the forensic accountant's notes on altered authorizations. Then the neighbor's time-stamped photo of movers leaving my condo the week assets vanished. The room's air changed. Cutlery stopped. Someone whispered, "Is that?" The reporter I'd briefed sat forward. My lawyer spoke with the kind of measured clarity you want when you know you're right. "These documents show unauthorized diversion of company funds, coordinated with transfers to third parties. We've filed for immediate injunctive relief to freeze the accounts and preserve evidence." He slid copies across the table. For the first time, James's composure cracked. He fumbled for his phone. Mom's practiced calm flinched into panic. Elena's laughter died mid-breath. Their rehearsed narratives, so polished in living rooms and on social media, had no traction here. Paper doesn't lie. Timestamps don't forgive. A neighbor read aloud the signed note. Movers, noon, the trucks, the dates. A former employee, brought quietly by me, told the table about hushed late-night meetings and James's boasts. Each piece clicked into place, a mosaic of intent. The forensic accountant explained simply, "Signatures show signs of tracing. Notary stamps don't match county records. That's consistent with forgery and concealment." Phones came out. Conversations turned to recorded questions and urgent texts. The reporter stood, voice professional and soft, asking for confirmation. Within an hour, there were calls to the bank. Within a day, freezes on accounts, compliance investigations, and the first tentative inquiries from regulators. The world they'd relied on, ease, charm, good references, shuddered. No shouting. No spectacle. Just the slow, terrible collapse that comes when a house of cards is finally shuffled by steady hands. They tried to explain. They tried to play hurt and confusion. It didn't matter. The facts had weight. The community watched as their image of the virtuous family crumbled into ledger. Lines and witness statements. I sat through the end of the luncheon like someone watching a play conclude. The actors suddenly ordinary, stripped of costume. I didn't clap. I didn't gloat. I let the silence and the paperwork do their work. Outside, as the winter sun slanted low, I stepped into air that felt cleaner. The first domino had fallen. The rest would follow. 6 months later, I didn't wake up to silence. I woke up to peace. No anxious glances at my phone. No pretend.